Ms. Barra, Ms. Mickens, Mr. Robinson, Mr. Washington, Mr. Beck, Mr. Uso, and Ms. Dot. Okay, good. Uh, on the agenda, we're gonna receive the third quarter budget update. Ms. Randall.
Before Ms. Miranda speak, I want to commend Ms. Randall for doing an outstanding job. We've been having conversations, I want to say probably for the last several weeks, and I'm very excited, and very proud, and very thankful that we have her working in our district. She does an outstanding job. So thank you, Ms. Randall, and I know you're going to continue to do the good work that you've always done. Thank you.
Good evening.
President and Board. I have all of the items on the calendar for you all tonight. The first item will be very brief because I think the other items will take most of the time. The third quarter budget update was as of March 31st. For that quarter, in comparison to our original budget, you'll see the quarter expenditures and revenues that were received thus far through, on the second column, that's through March 31st. You'll see the percentage as it compares to budget. It should be about 75% if we're looking at third quarter. Our total revenues was right at 73%, so that's pretty good for that quarter. And our total expenditures were a little over 62%. As you know, a lot of our staff has to get paid through July, and it still accounts for this fiscal year, so that will be a little under 75%, but all of that is to be expected. And then we did a cost estimation out throughout the what's expected all the way through June 30th, 2021, and there you'll see the difference from original budget to what we're projecting that will end at the end of the fiscal year, which originally we predicted a $340,000 deficit, and it looks like we'll have a surplus of about $1,156,000 according to this quarter thus far. So as revenues increases and some expenditures, we're being very conservative. We are coming out on a more positive outlook than we originally budgeted. On the second page of that, I will not go into detail at all. That's just our grants quarterly update. As you know, with grants, we can only request what we expended according to the money that is received from the State Department. So that's just an update to tell you the award allocation, how much we've expended, how much we've requested, and then the balance left to be spent. So that lists all of our grants and all of the information through March 31st for all of the grants. So that's just for your review and check.
So,
That's it for the third quarter. Unless there's any questions.
so Anya, I'm looking at the state revenues on the percentage comparison to the budget. That's 69.63%. That's how much we are dependent upon our MSP dollars, that amount?
Yeah, and we'll go into more detail when we get into the revised budget where we
Okay.
see that. But yes, for that quarter, we've received about 70% thus far. Of course, that's through March 31st. So we're going to receive April, May, June, and June for this year's budget. But I'll go into more detail on that because that is a big item that you'll see when we talk about the full budget.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you very much.
And the high cost grants, services on the next page. Those will be announced in.
Those have been received, well, they were not, it says to be announced, but we have received them and we have budgeted them, but it was in April. So they're not showing in this quarter. We have them here to date, but this is the quarterly update through March 31st. Okay. In the budget also, you'll see those totals when we go through budget, because budget stuff is as of today. As of March 31st, when we met with the other grant directors, that information wasn't yet available, but we got those, they were due back to the state for budget on April 30th, so we got them, I want to say April 1st. And that budget was done in April, so at the time of this report, when we met with our grant directors, that was not updated yet. but you will see the totals in the budget.
Okay, next, review the salary schedule.
Okay, each year we create a salary committee to review all of our salary schedules, and I would like to give huge thanks to the colleagues who worked alongside me for this year's salary committee. We have some of them here present with us today. They are Ms. Lachey Patterson from our Business Services Department, Ms. Rashana Jarvis, a teacher with us, Ms. Lori, who is a principal at Colleyville Primary, Ms. Kathy, principal at Colleyville Middle, Mr. Shannon, our HR director, myself, and Mr. John Giordani, a teacher from our Beaufort area. We really had some great conversation, a lot of debate. Everybody put a lot of energy and effort, took their task on the committee very serious. We met 4 or 5 times, some virtual, some in person, and so I know that took them away from their job responsibilities, but they really provided a different level of input to the conversation, so we truly appreciate them for their service. So before we go into the topics and the changes, just wanted to highlight the variety of people that serve on the committee.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so getting into the salary schedules, as you know, anything that's different or changed is noted in red, so you have a color copy attached in your folders. On a certificated teacher scale, I have increased it right now by the $400 local raise. So you'll see where the starting salary is now $41,400. But I have it highlighted because we have some anticipation of the state being noted. We do not have that information as of today, but whenever the state does give us that information, I will come back to you all and ask for, or hopefully by the time we ask for this to be approved by June 16th, we'll have that information from the state and we can update it. But those may not be the final numbers, that's just as of approved right now. And also with that, the step increases, the board had always approved that our step increase is 1.5% of the base. So the step increase did remain 1.5, so the step increases changed also. The next 2 pages, which are our support salary schedules, you don't see anything red on the child nutrition, maintenance, and transportation salary schedules, but I want you all to know that the local raise that you all approved as a previous board member is reflected in these numbers. So they have increased. And if the state were to give a raise, these numbers will change to reflect that also. The next page where it says support staff salary schedule, and you'll see Head Start teachers with a bachelor column striped out. The salary committee was tasked with researching Head Start teachers' salaries. And in doing that research, we found that the job description for a Head Start teacher did not mandate a bachelor's degree. With all of our, they only have to have an associate's degree. With all of our other positions that mandate an associate's degree, they receive a stipend for the bachelor's degree. So any employee who already is receiving that bachelor's column salary, they would be frozen or they would be grandfathered in to continue receiving that. But all other new hires as a Head Start teacher, the proposal is that they would be compensated at the associate's tab and receive the same degree stipend as every other support employee. Along with that, there's a possibility where, with the R chart of adding a receptionist position to our job description, if that position is ever filled, we just added that column. If we fill that position, we added a salary schedule for that position. Moving on to page 4. Same thing with the administrative salaries. Those have been increased to cover the local raise that you all adopted with the $400 increase. Also, before there was one scale for principals and instructional supervisors. The superintendent asked us to research to break those 2 out. He wanted to tier it to where a principal salary scale would end, an instructional supervisor scale would begin, and where an instructional supervisor scale would end, a director scale would begin. So that has been accomplished there. Additionally, on that page, we were asked to research principal pay and determine a supplement according to the number of students served. So with that, the committee did some research for other districts. We looked at other districts who we normally compare to. And the committee is coming up with this recommendation that you see listed in red. Principals shall earn a supplement according to the number of students that exceed 200 according to the official February 1st student count of the school year prior to the beginning of a fiscal year. Stipends could fluctuate on an annual basis depending on the number of students included in the official February 1st student count. Stipends are not included in principals' permanent salaries. Stipends shall be provided to principals serving at locations with greater than 200 students according to the following scale. So from 200 to anything under 200 students, you will receive any stipend. So 200 to 399 students, an additional $875. 400 to 599 students, an additional $1750. 600 to 799 students, an additional $2625. And 800 and above students, an additional $3,500. That number comes from, chart pretty much comes from our high school principal. Currently, the high school principal receives a stipend of $3,500. So with that $3,500, I think we took it and divided it by quarters. So a fourth of it would be for the lowest tier, half of it would be for the middle tier, 3/4 of it would be for the third tier, which is 600 to 799. But that's where, if you're wondering about the numbers, that's what we use. Our high school principal already received an additional $3,500. So we use that number to come up with a tier.
Question.
How many schools we have, three, that have less than 200, 3 or 4?
Two.
Two, just two. What about Balu?
That is one of the two.
What about the two in Balu?
Only one of those are over 200.
Only one?
The middle school was there. Middle school, right, Shannon?
Yes, middle school.
Okay.
I think the primary school is right, it's close. It's close, but it's right.
Okay.
Okay,
What about, because assistant principals also service those students, what about assistant principals?
assistant principals, we debated this, and we've been debating this, I know y'all know, for the last 2 or 3 years. The way the committee looked at it, and I'm going to not turn my back to them in case they have anything else to say. The way we looked at it originally was that additional staff should possibly be given or granted to help with the additional duties, whether it's discipline, whether it's curriculum, but then also when it comes down to the after-school events, when it comes down to being at these type meetings, most of the time it's the principal that's mandated to go and not the assistant principal. So I don't think that was not something we were tasked with, but the assignment was to, and if we looked at everyone else, it was pretty much only principals that received additional supplement when we compared to other districts, right? There wasn't really any district. I'm not saying that it can or cannot be done, but when we did the research, it was pretty much for principals.
I'm good with that, that's good justification.
Was any discussion held about principals that are principal to a primary and a middle school?
That pretty much was like, if that's where the numbers should fall in. So if you're over various grade levels, then you should have more students. So you would get the additional money because now you have more students because you have more grade.
Right.
So that's
If you have a primary school with 600 kids, you would get the same thing if you had a primary and a middle, and you had all these after school.
question. I might have missed it. You got for the 800 students and above. That's the beginning of the year. You get the 3,500, and then at the middle of the year, if something changed, you can get X number of dollars.
It's good question. It's based on the prior year February 1 count. So if we're making this effective for July 1,
All right.
it's what your count was at February 1 of last year.
Okay.
Because with payroll and retirement, you don't want people every month to come and say, oh, I now have 3 more kids, or I now have 30 more kids. So the stipend would be that amount divided by 12 months.
Okay.
So they would get a portion every month.
Okay, gotcha.
But it would only change at July 1 based on what your February 1 count was. So if they want their stipend to go up, you need to recruit the kids before July 1.
Okay.
Don't recruit the kids once August comes.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, good. Next,
No, I'm not done.
is it?
She's not finished.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
this one, that page. Nothing on the next page.
Breakdown, okay.
Page 6, where it talks about supplemental pays. The only additional thing that we added here was assistant principals who are assigned to perform any duties deemed necessary during work days outside of their normal working calendar shall receive $25 an hour. Like if there's a professional development or a training taking place in the summer, we didn't really have anything written to pay those assistant principals. We have it above to pay teachers and paraprofessionals, but there was nothing written to pay. The rate is still the same as the teacher rate, but we didn't have it written of what the assistant principals would receive. And then we're removing the energy manager supplement because that position is no longer being fulfilled. Page 7, where it says other pays. The edits there, or the edit for the foreign associate teachers that we receive from the State Department, we don't dictate what those amounts are, so we're just adopting what the state telling us to adopt. And then all the pipeline specialist, mentor, teacher, resident stipend, all of that stuff that's strike through, those were salaries that we paid for that TIP grant. TIP, we will not have the TIP grant next year, so we no longer need to include that in our salary schedules. There is a clause right here for operational allowances for owner-operators that is directly from your policy. At the last policy meeting, we talked about how pay should be included in your salary books and not in your policy. So we just remove that clause straight from your policy and add it here. Page 8, the superintendent, after your last policy meeting, we had to call a special meeting to get the salary committee back because he wanted us to get some information, do some research of how to compensate employees during school closure. We did get feedback from Carroll, Iberville, and Ascension parishes. And so basically, based on what they did, what our current practices were, we met, and this is a recommendation that we're coming up with of how to compensate employees during a school closure. And it reads, in the event of a district-wide school closure, employees, including the superintendent, who are assigned to report to work shall be compensated according to their classification. Exempt employees shall be paid $30 per hour. Non-exempt employees shall be paid their hourly rate. The reason we went with the hourly rate for non-exempt employees because if we're off for an extended amount of time and they actually work above 40 hours, they're due their overtime. And if you remember, the attorney was like, well, yeah, that's labor law, y'all should know that, but we're spelling it out here because you may have somebody who has to implement this who may not know labor law. So that's why we went with that. We also talked about operational allowances. This was the committee's recommendation about operational allowances during school closure. Operational allowances are paid to owner-operators in accordance to the actual days of bus operation during the school calendar. In the event of a district-wide school closure in which the calendar does not reflect a change or a revision, or does not warrant for a makeup day to be added to the school calendar, although the operation of an owner-operator bus may not occur, owner-operators shall be compensated the operational allowance that computes to the statutory fixed rate. So that's pretty much saying, I'm in a lot of words, but that's pretty much saying, if the day remains a school day,
Right.
they get whatever the state says that they get, if it remains a school day. The next segment says, in the event of a district-wide school closure in which the school calendar does reflect a change in the actual school date, or is revised to substitute a school day by adding another school date in replacement of the school closure date, owner-operators shall be compensated their regular operational allowance in accordance to the revised school calendar. So if we close, just using this as an example, we close May 1st, but we have to make up May 1st on May 20th. That May 1st day, they will not be paid for because that becomes a non-working day. But the May 20th day, when they do have to work and make up, they will receive their regular operation. So it's a wash. It doesn't require any extra payment or any loss of operational fee for the drivers.
Do not cover full days. What happens if we do close, like we did this year? What happens to the operational money or to the?
So if we close and do not have to make it up, and it remains in the calendar, they're paid the state statutory rate, according to this recommendation. This is only the committee's recommendation. They would be paid, but the state statutory amount, not the additional 35%. They would be paid the amount that's in the revised statute, the state. So if this was into play when we closed March 13th, they would have been paid everything except the fuel adjustment and 35%. That's what this recommendation is.
Okay.
Because that's what the state, the minimum mandate allows.
Is there a number attached to that field adjustment rate, you recall?
It's a formula that's.
Yeah, I know.
We have to call twice a month to get that.
Huh?
It's in the
Yeah.
policy.
Yeah, it's a formula that's in the policy. And when it's over a certain dollar amount, we have to call and do the surveys twice a month. My office do that, and it's in that.
Okay.
It just depends, yeah, it depends on, it varies. It's not a number that I can just.
Okay. All right. Thank you, ma'am.
The next page, we've always had these index factors. We're just highlighting what personnel work those days and those months, so we're just adding that on page 9. And then nothing's on page 10. Page 11 is just the updated payroll deadline.
Nothing changed on the coaching supplement?
No, we didn't have any recommendations to review that. And this, of course, is only for information. We'll probably ask for approval at the second meeting in June. So if there's any questions or any more clarification, we'll be able to do that.
Can you explain how a pay scale is determined? Because it says here it's not years.
Correct. So it's, good question, I'm glad you asked that. It's for a current employee like myself, it's kind of complicated because you can't look at my years that I've been in assumption and go to a pay scale because I'm not on that step. Because our scales have changed. When Act 1 changed in 2012, they told us to pay stubs do not equate to years of experience. So you can put pretty much any letter, number, whatever you want. But in the past, people had looked at that as years. What we did when Act 1 came and we had to change and give money for performance, and we changed our salary scales. If y'all remember, on the very old scales in 2012, you would have a teacher scale, you would have step 17, 18, and 19 would all be the same amount. Some people didn't receive step increases for 3 or 4 years because those numbers were still the same. Mr. Justice shaking his head, he probably remembers.
Yeah, I knew with that.
So when we moved to the new schedules after Act 1, we looked at the dollar amount. So if you were on step 5 and making $41,200, and now step 1 is $42,000, you went to step 1. We just make sure that our current employees receive more salary than the previous year that they earned.
That makes sense.
For new employees, and Shannon might correct me if I'm wrong, For new employees, which pretty much for when we translated that, it may have made people in the retirement system, and I'm talking about teachers, not support staff, because that's a different category when we look at bus drivers and secretaries, because their steps change drastically. But when we look at what we have in a retirement system, we use that number and that out 2 years because the 1 year that we were frozen to get some kind of measure for teachers. For support staff, you can get 3 for 1. The practice has been every 3 years of experience that you have doing that job, you receive 1 year of credit to then be put on a step for 1 year. That's how we handle new employees. Now I'm going to go back into our support employees, such as secretaries, such as bus drivers. About, Mr. Howard was here, so I want to say maybe 2014, 15, you all made us look at support scales because we felt like we were compensating we weren't meeting the regional average of how we were paying support scales. During that time, secretaries and bus drivers scales increased drastically. By 3,000 for some, by 5,000. Those people did not remain in their step. Remember, the state said pay steps do not equate to years of experience. So if you were on step 20, making $12,000, just using this as an example. Step 20 making $12,000, and now step 1 is $17,000. You then went to step 1 with 20 years of experience, but you receive a $3,000 raise. So we eventually, for all you new hires, it'll get back to that where years equals up. But for our current employees, when we have to change and fix the salary schedules, the years do not equate to years. The steps do not equate to years.
Okay, so if that 5-year employee went back to step 1, next year he becomes a step 2 or not?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, so it does.
Then he does right. In the next year, you do gradually. Yes, you do gradually. Yeah, you're not going to no one. That's just your starting point for when the steps change, when we make the transition.
Right, but after that.
Yeah, they get
there's
their
an additional step.
Correct.
Good? Okay. Next, review the amended fiscal year 2020 to 2021 budget. I ran out of time.
Okay, so first we will not go through this entire packet. I'll take you all through the summary pages.
Yeah, that'll be.
So if you go to the first page that says revised general fund budget. Before I get into the numbers, of course you have your budget message that you all can read. But of course I would like to let you know how the process happened. Before we begin any budget process, it has to begin with staffing. And staffing, our staff makes up 86% of our budget. So we did have staffing meeting with all of the principals, all of the directors to discuss staffing in their schools, in their departments for the upcoming fiscal year. That's pretty much was the primary driver of the budget. This budget was definitely developed not by myself, by collaboration of directors, supervisors. We met with everyone to get their input of what their needs were for their departments. And we have formulated the attached budget that I present to you. The proposed budget, I'll go over revised first, but just to let you all know, the proposed budget, we're not looking for approval until June 16th. As you know, we have to get approval before June 30th. The budget will advertise in the paper the week of May 24th, and it will be available for public inspection from May 24th to June 11th between 8 to 4. So regarding the revised budget first. All right, our original budget that we predicted for this fiscal year looked at a deficit spending of about $340,544. We're revising based on the following factors. Our revenues have decreased. We're predicting a decrease of almost $2 million, $1.8 million. The biggest impact of that decrease was MFP. You alluded to it earlier, Mr. Lewis. Our MFP, we lost 70 students in our official, about 70 students in our official count. That's about $700,000. So that makes up about half of those state revenues. In addition to that, if they also do a 2-year look back, so our ad valorem taxes and sales taxes did pretty good like the last 2 years, so we took a hit this year for that. So our revenues are down 1.8 million. But we're very conservative in assumption. Mr. Beck always says we do a lot with a little. So if you look at the expenditures, we saved on spending expenditures a total of about $3.4 million. So the 1.8 million didn't, even though we lost revenues of a total of about 1.8 million, because we were very conservative with our spending, we're still going to look at about a $1.2 million surplus. And that's still being on a conservative outlook. I think it will be a little bit more than that, but we're still two months, well, really, yeah, 2 months, we still pay bills in July for this fiscal year. With 2 months left, I think that's being conservative with about predicting $1.2 million surplus for this year's budget. When we look forward on the next page to what we're proposing for next year, as we compare it to FY21, the prior year, our revenues, we're predicting a total decrease of $338,000. And when you look at that $338,000, here we go again. Our largest difference is $1.4 million in MFP funding. So even with that $1.4 million less in MFP, our collections, our ad valorem taxes are going to be up about $414,000 if we levy the same amount of villages that we levied last year, and that's what we're recommending. In addition to that, what's really been a blessing for a lot of school districts, especially us, the CARES Act funding, we're able to take advantage of the unreserved indirect costs. So our administrative costs of all of these grants that I complain about having an account for, it's helping general fund. So we're predicting about $700,000 more in revenues that general fund will benefit from because we're administering the paperwork for those grants. So our revenues are only going to decline, we're only predicting $338,000 less there. And our expenditures, pretty much, it didn't waver a lot from prior year expenditures. That's $156,875 less there. So our original budget last year, we predicted a deficit of $340,000. This year, we predicted a deficit of $522,000. That is a difference of about $181,000. And if you all remember the line item that you all approved, I think it was at the last board meeting to deal with the local supplement, that cost $187,000. So even with adding $187,000, your deficit is only increasing by $181,000. That additional expenditure is also coupled with a step increase. You said, will they still get their normal step increase? Yes. So that the budget should go up. But we were very strategic. We're moving some things that general fund used to pay for into some special revenue grant funding to allow general fund deficit to not be as much. So when we budget, we budget worst case scenario in both revenues and expenditures. We seriously doubt that we will run a deficit. My superintendent wanted to see that number at 0, but I told him I was good. I don't have any worries. When that number gets to be $2 million, then we have a problem. Right now, no less than $522,000 volume. I think we're in a very good position with even budgeting that type of thing.
And I agree. I want to say maybe we talked probably at least 10 minutes, and she kept explaining to me, we're going to be okay, Ms. Wadami, we're going to be okay, don't lose any sleep. So I do trust what you're saying, and I really appreciate the hard work. And as well as the committee. You know, I don't want to forget the committee, and also I see Ms. Crystal, and I know Ms. Lachey helps out a lot tremendously on this budget and what we're proposing to the board. So I want to let everyone know I really appreciate all your hard work. Thank you for that.
In addition, and I won't go over all the sheets, but there are some things I would like to point out. I think it's important for you all as board members. You all approve the dollar amount and the number of positions that are in the budget. So the next page tells you the position list that shows the number of positions you approved in your 2020 budget, and then the amount that we're proposing that you approved in your 2021 budget, and then the changes there. You can read that for your viewing pleasure. When it comes to special revenues, which are our grants, it says revised special revenue budget at the top. I think it's very important to see what we initially adopted, $7.5 million, a total of $7.5 million in grant funding that has now increased because of all the additional fundings and all the additional initiatives that the superintendent and our curriculum people are going after. We have increased our grant funding to a little over $15 million. So that's more than $8 million. That you can tell me in some of my meetings, I'm like, I don't know. And you know, it's one after another, but it's good. It's opportunity that we're providing to our students, to our teachers, to our schools. So we are excited about it, definitely excited about the different initiatives that are about to come forward. But just wanted to point out where after HVAC, sales tax, you see all those zeros those are grants that we did not have at July 1. And those are all the new grants that we received during this year. Ms. Barra, you asked about high cost services. There you'll see we received $702,801 of high cost services for this year. I'm not going into detail, but the detail is in the back of where those, you know, the supplementary schedules of where that funding went. If you don't see it or need some help with that, I'm definitely available to just reach out. I'll definitely explain that. But this year, at July 1, the thing about high cost, just to point out, high cost, we do not start writing for that. They use your October 1 counts. This data and data that's submitted to the state at October 1. They don't start telling you what you can submit for until February is your first round. So you receive it late. By the time you receive it, school has already started. So we just kind of reclass some employees that we already have on staff, and there are some timesheet people that are pretty much cost out to that place. In addition to that revised special revenue budget, the next sheet lets you know about the proposed budgets for next year. Those are the grants that we think will, or that we know of as of today, that we'll have for next year. You'll see where some of them are listed and they have a zero because we do not have those numbers yet from the State Department for next year. We know we'll get them, but we won't have. So for next year when we revise, the original budget will show zero, and then when we do get the award at the end of the year, we'll show the amount. And then the last thing that I'll just discuss with you all is the same thing. The position list, the number of positions that we have for each grant funding is listed on the special revenue position list. And then all the other pages behind that is just supplementary schedules to go back to the summary numbers. Again, our budget is not expected to be adopted until June 16th. So if anyone, that's about 4 weeks away, so if anyone have any questions, I would like to come sit down at any time to discuss this. I like talking about numbers. So if you don't want to make an appointment, just show up.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Thank you, Anya.
I guess, with the, I think we had, issue with, a couple of roofs that needed, that are leaking,
Yeah,
where is that allowed under operation and maintenance, and in case, we have to make a major repair with.
a major repair will fall under capital improvement, but if it's a repair patchwork, that's in a regular operations and maintenance budget.
Okay, I mean, we have enough money in that for.
We should, and if we do not, if the board approves it, we just revise it.
Put it in there.
Yeah, correct.
Like,
You have the authority to do
for
so.
the
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Currently, right now, just to let everyone know, we had a situation this morning at the high school, and one of our circuit boards actually, I guess, burned up, and which caused the heater to come on at the high school and the AC at the same time. So that's what triggered the smoke at the high school where we had to call EMS. So as of right now, we already have a projected cost, and we're actually, I told Dwayne that we need to get that taken care of ASAP. So we're looking at only around $5,000 to fix that particular issue at the high school currently. And that's an electronic issue right now.
All right, good.
For example, just that we have capital improvement funds that we budget about $200,000 every year. Of the $200,000 this year, I think only about $6,000 was spent. So there are funds available for if emergencies happen.
Okay.
That's always an emergency. Well, I have to have that question.
But there wasn't much damage today.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. It was a faulty chip that was inside of the program that we have, the computer programming that we have, and what caused it, once it froze and once it burned up, it automatically ignited the system, so it turned everything on. So they had the AC running and the heater running at the same time, and we could not turn the heater off, so the heater kept getting hot, more and more. So what happened? It overheated and it started to smoke. But as far as any fire or anything like that, that did not occur.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Bonnie?
I'm sorry.
How many employees do we have?
Full complement, what is about 464?
Full, it was full something.
Yes. 467? About 470.
I know at one time we had over 600, but I think we really.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when I first got here, we had about 4,000 students, and we're
Yeah.
down to 2,900.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm saying,
Thank you much. Bonnie.
Appreciate you. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Motion to adjourn the finance committee meeting. Motion by Ms. Uso, second by Ms. Barrow. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Finance meeting is over. 15-minute break.